Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking baseball, or the lack thereof, and the possibility that we will not have baseball for a long, long time. We'll be talking Kyle Long, the MLB draft, and what the NBA is doing right. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So, I know, the season is probably over, but that shouldn't stop you from heading over to icehogs.com, getting yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Oh, Alex. The news today, we're recording this on Monday, the news today about the possibility of actually having an MLB season are pretty grim.
Yeah, I mean, we have comments from the commissioner who just a few days ago said he 100% believes there's a season, and now saying, I don't know about that, in just a matter of a few days, not even a week. And then you're getting this report about there have been staff members testing positive for the coronavirus. It just seems like at this point, why would there be any hope of there being a season? I mean, here, look. We can get into all the politics and the owners and all the negotiations and the bullcrap 50-game proposals or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, if there's still a threat of the coronavirus, you don't have a choice.
I mean, here's the where the owners and the Players Association don't have an option. And that's if they can't play baseball at the majority of home parks, then that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they want to do something like the NBA, where they're playing at one location, or like the NHL is trying to do, played in one conference, plays in one location, the other conference plays in the other location, and they do it Florida and Arizona, or Texas and Arizona, then okay, maybe that happens. But if they're realistically trying to have baseball at the home parks, I don't know if that's possible or feasible.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't there not be crowds anyway? I mean, that's one big thing. But the other is if you can even play it there or not. You know, everywhere is so different right now. And I'm going to mention this too. Canada, because I work in travel, is locked down tight. And you have a team up there. The logistics are not easy.
Yeah, I mean,
of this whole thing.
They would have to relocate to the United States for the short term. It's just not feasible to do this. And that's the science reality of it. And then you want to get into a little bit of the politics of it. Is I was listening to, my buddy Gary sent me a link to a podcast called Sox Machine.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an episode from today, or was I just listening to it today? It was a recent one. It had Evan Marshall from the White Sox calling in, and he was talking about the proposal and where the reality is for a lot of Major League Baseball players. So he said that the proposal from the owners, that every time the Players Association, gives a little, the owners come back with just a different way of saying the same number. So at first it was 80 some game season with a sliding scale salary, which ended up paying the players about a third of their salary. Then the next one was a 50 game proposal at prorated salary, which is about a third of their salary. And then the next one was like a 70 game with a pay cut, which ends up being about a third of their salary. So, you have a lot of players, and I think 538 did the math of it. They got the actual numbers from the Players Association and, ran it through SpotTrack, and like more than half of baseball players make less than $1 million a year, and the vast majority of those makes like around $600,000 a year, which is a lot of money. But according to agents, after taxes and fees, they have to pay like union dues, they have to pay agent fees, they have to pay certain amount of money when they go on the road. They said it's less than half of that. And they said the average like lifespan of a player's professional career once they hit the majors is 3.7 years. So, if you think after taxes, you take home, most of these guys take home like $300,000. I mean, that's like $1 million, which is a lot of money, but that's the money. You can't live off of that forever.
No.
That's, you could pay off your house, put some money in a college fund, pay off cars outright, and you have a nice start, but you have to have a job. So a lot of these guys are living paycheck to paycheck. And in some of these proposals, the Major League Baseball or the teams fronted players money to pay their bills and whatnot. And if they actually resume the season, they're going to end up owing the team money because they're not going to be paid their full amount. They're going to owe the team money. And that's a tough spot too, like you're going to be working, going to work and having to pay to go to work.
That is a tough spot. There's a lot of things that go into this that a lot of people probably don't realize or don't even think about. I mean, you look at salary, you're just like, oh yeah, that's just what they make. It's like, well, like you said, put all the other factors into it. Taxes being a big one. It's, it's something that can be glossed over pretty easily. And look, we all know that the Manny Machados, Bryce Harpers, Giancarlo Stantons are going to be fine. We know that. But really, they make up a smaller chunk of MLB workers. I'm not just talking players. I'm talking about workers across the board.
Yeah, so here we go. I pull up the article. So of the 1,453 players to accrue at least 1 day of service time last season, 40.6 have made less than $1 million in career earnings, according to Major League Baseball Players Association. The median career earnings, so the median means half of the players got over it, half got under. So that's like smack dab in the middle. The median career earnings of that group was $357,000, which, that's a good chunk of money, but you can't live off of that. Just figure half of that is what you get. It's $180,000. That's not enough to buy like the average priced house.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. I'm looking more at the numbers here. So yeah, they said that there's jock taxes that they have to pay on games played in states and cities with those taxes. There's union dues, which is, and then they have the agent fees, taxes. So it's in the, the average career is 3.71 seasons. So they were talking with Rob Scahill, who played for the White Sox, And he spent 7 years in the majors, and he accrued 2 years and 162 days of service time, and he made a total of $1.31 million in major league pay. He said he got $110,000 signing bonus as an 8th-round pick in 2009, but that was eroded through a huge negative cash flow of living on a minor league wages, which minor league players make nothing. They make nothing.
No, they live in vans in people's houses. They don't make anything.
Yeah, so he used that $110,000 to live. He didn't sign his first major league contract until 2013. It was a 1-year, $490,000, but he split his time between the Rockies and AAA clubs, so he earned $203,497,000 from the big league club. His last game pitch was 2018 as a 31-year-old, and his final attempt to make a team. After his final attempt to make a team, he entered in real estate. He said, "Your average major league player needs a job after baseball." He said if you're savvy, you could save 25% of what he earned after taxes. So if a player has a $1.31 million in major league earnings like Scahill and is able to save a quarter of his take-home pay after taxes and union fees, he would leave his career with $156,200 in cash savings from his major league salary.
That says a lot.
So, I mean, you know, it's so these guys, like a lot of them, they, you know, for every guy that's like Garrett Cole that is making $40 million a year, there's 30, 40 guys that, you know, are literally living paycheck to paycheck too, or trying to live, you know, as frugally as possible, knowing that what the money they're making right now is going to have to carry them through, you know, the rest of their lives, and they're probably going to have to get a job anyway. So, you know, I'm not boo-hooing because, we all have jobs too, but I'm just saying is that there's a lot of players that aren't filthy rich and traveling on private jets, that they're just guys that were good at baseball that, got a good head start in life, but they're going to have to work like everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you're good enough, or you were in a right spot where you were a role player on a World Series team or something, you can probably get by with personal appearances and things like that. But it's tough, you know. There's just a lot of guys that are, you know, itching to get back because they want to play because they love the game, and they want to get back because they need a paycheck. And the way it's looking right now is, like we said, is Rob Manfred just a couple of days ago said 100% chance there was going to be a season, and now he's not very confident. So it just, you're seeing the owners not budging, and the players, you know, having to draw a line in the sand. And, you know, at some point the reality is going to have to be is it feasible to have a season? Because it's the middle of June right now. So even if they were to come to an agreement today, you would start spring training come July 1st?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't start until late July.
You wouldn't start playing actual games until late July at the earliest, maybe even August 1st. And then so what? You get August, September, because you can't really push the season back. It's like the NBA and the NHL, they can move the season to whenever because they play indoors.
Mm-hmm.
It is at some point it's going to be cold. You're going to hit winter weather. So you can play, you know, August, September, and so you get 50 games, 45 games.
That's not enough for a season. You can't play an MLB season with that little. You could do it for NBA and NHL, but not baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and honestly, if they were to like, hey, we're going to do a 45 game season, I would be okay with it as long as they didn't do the World Series. They just played it like it was an exhibition. Because I don't think that's fair. It's like a big asterisk World Series.
Well, we already have one of those.
And that's true. And actually, the White Sox, if there was no COVID, the White Sox would be playing the Astros. I think they would be playing them this past weekend or today.
And the Cubs would have been in London.
Yeah.
But alas.
But you know what? You know who's the only people that are probably happy about the season and the COVID and everything? The Astros.
They're not getting plunked. They're not getting booed. They're not getting stuff thrown at them.
Yep. It's like they're like, whew, dodge that bullet.
Mm-hmm. What I was saying, and I think other people were saying it too, canceling the season at this point would feel so unbelievably sour and ugly because of the discourse the negotiations took. If this was just solely based on the pandemic and saying, you know what, it's just not safe, we're going to cancel it, I think feelings would be a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to use this to segue into, I'm sure you watched the 30 for 30 last night.
Yeah, I did.
So you were really young, but I remember the lockout. And I remember when baseball came back, and there was not a lot of fanfare. There was not a lot of happy people. Casual fans just like, man, whatever. And a lot of the diehard fans were like, you know what? I feel betrayed by Major League Baseball. And the excitement just wasn't there. And, it started coming back with the home run race. But, it's really going to take a toll. And this is just a preview of what we're going to get when we have, the next CBA that's going to become due very soon. I think it was after next season.
After next year, yeah.
So you're gonna see some ugly and contentious negotiations, and if this season doesn't happen, and then you get another lockout, and you get 2 lockouts in a 2-year span, baseball might be done.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
The owners say things like, well, we don't make any money. But you know what? How in the world can there be billion-dollar TV revenue deals and you have the valuation of the teams grow astronomically? I mean, what are the Yankees worth? Like $3 billion, $4 billion?
Mm-hmm.
You have these teams worth so much money. If they're not making any money, how are they worth that much money? Like, what would you buy a company for $4 billion if they weren't making any money? No, that doesn't make any sense. The Ricketts didn't buy the Cubs because they were super fans. They bought the Cubs because they were profitable.
Right.
It just happened to be that they're also fans, but they if they were fans and it wasn't a money-making operation, they would not be the owners.
No, of course not.
So there's money to be made. They're just NFL is much more transparent with the money. Baseball is not. Baseball shoves it away, nooks and crannies. Their costs are spread out more. And it's tough to, Major League Baseball's Players Association doesn't know what they make either. So it's tough, and we're seeing a preview of what the collective bargaining agreement negotiations are going to be like. And if they use this as the fight and they kind of hammer things out, I'm okay, because I'm at this point not expecting a season. And if it means we don't have a lockout after next season, then I'll take that. I'd rather lose this season that we were already losing a big chunk of because of COVID than losing an entire season because of a lockout.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You know, it's weird to think when you look at the other sports, you just say, oh, they were gone because of COVID. I mean, that's the reason. It was because of the coronavirus. But because baseball has been such a clown show at the negotiations, you forgot that this whole thing was about a pandemic with them. It feels like another strike almost.
Yeah.
Or like, like the disagreements that led to a strike.
Yeah, it's very much become that. It's baseball could have saved itself. They could have been the first sport back. They could have,
or at least the first sport with a plan.
Yeah, they could have done all these things, and set themselves up for something good. And instead, you're gonna lose a baseball season, and you're gonna have the NBA and NHL come back, and people dive into that when they should be consuming baseball.
Now, I do know that the NBA and the NHL is running into a few kinks themselves, but at least they have a much more structured idea of what they want to do.
They do. They do have a better idea of what they're trying to do. But and you're right. There's not going to be any smooth, with the way the world is right now. There's not going to be any smooth transition and smooth, I guess, plan that's going to go off without a hitch. But I feel like the NHL and NBA have it much more in control than baseball.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
And, the NBA, like, it's going to be weird, and that with their campus and, playing everyone sequestered in the Disney campus for however many months. And if they're free to go, but if they do, then they have to be quarantined for 10 days when they come back, so they're going to miss games. It's really, they're kind of locking them in. I'm sure players are going to be upset about that, but, they're going to be able to play.
Campus is going to be guarded by a bunch of Mickey Mouses.
And I don't know what the latest on the NHL is. I honestly haven't
heard much lately.
It was, they were like, oh, we have it all set up, and we're going to do it in 2 cities, and 1 conference in this city, 1 conference in that city, and then sort of just fizzled out. I didn't hear anymore. But I don't know if silence is a good thing.
I think there was concerns about training camp and some players not wanting to go. At least I don't really know the details, but
yeah. So I don't know, but it's regardless. There's so much less public feuding with NHL and NBA. Like there's definitely players that are saying, "Hey, just want to make sure we're safe," or people voicing concerns, and that's natural because this is something different. And if you look at the numbers of the COVID numbers in the United States, we haven't really dipped. Like we're still in, we don't have a second wave coming. We're still in that first wave. It's just the numbers have not dipped. Numbers are rising in a lot of places. So, players
a lot of southern states,
yeah, players are rightfully concerned.
Yeah, that's why I have some doubts about the other sports happening, but at least they kind of have an idea of where they're going. I don't know. The future of sports right now as a whole is very uncertain, but with baseball, it's more uncertain by far than any of the others.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Baseball is so uncertain, and it's tough. It's tough to watch. It's tough to watch a sport just kill itself.
And it's not just look at the scandals. Look at the whole Yankees story now.
What's the Yankee story? I haven't seen it.
Oh, you didn't hear about that?
No.
Their judge was saying they had to open up a letter from MLB to the Yankees that could quote hurt their reputation.
Oh, geez.
Go look into that. Go look into that. This was like on Saturday, I think. And you had the Astros thing and the Red Sox thing, and Oh, it's bad. It's right now the sport is in really bad shape.
Is this a sign stealing?
Well, that's, I didn't really read much into it, but I think it was mentioned.
On Monday, the Yankees and Major League Baseball appealed last Friday's ruling ordering a letter sent by MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred to Yankees general manager Brian Cashman to be unsealed. The Yankees argue the release of the letter would cause significant reputation injury, according to U.S. District Judge Jed Rakoff's ruling that the letter should be unsealed. The letter is set to be unsealed on Friday, pending Monday's emergency appeal. The Post's Ken Davidoff over the weekend. Multiple industry sources told the Post's Ken Davidoff over the weekend the letter Manfred wrote to the Yankees in September 2017, the results of an investigation launched from the Red Sox Apple Watch Gate scandal, documents a pair of sign-stealing related transgressions, including the Yankees improperly using a dugout phone in the season before 2017.
Yeah.
The Yankees players stationed themselves in the replay room in an attempt to steal opponents' signs, then relayed that information to runners on second at base so they could try to tell the hitter what was coming. Wow.
I'm surprised you didn't hear about that.
I tuned out over the weekend. I was just like, I'm tuning out.
That's fair. I've done a lot of tuning out myself on social media the last few weeks, even before a lot of things happened in the last few months. I've been trying to do less and less. Life's just getting busy, but I was on Twitter Saturday and I did see it there.
Yeah, that's oof. So they have multiple organizations now with sign stealings. It's the new steroids.
It is. And you know what? It makes steroids look a lot different than this. A planned, coordinated use of espionage, basically.
I'm just glad I'm glad it's not the Cubs.
Me too. At least for now.
We got to be careful how hard we're raking everybody over the coals, because if it turns around, like the guy I know that raked the Astros the hardest is a diehard Yankees fan. So, oof.
Well, Yankees fans have raked the Astros, I think, harder than anyone, even more than Dodger fans, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's what the Yankee fans do, though. They just rake everybody. 27 championships. Oh! So, what do you want to talk next? Do you want to talk the baseball draft? You want to talk the 30 for 30? Do you want to talk Kyle Long?
I want to do quick thoughts on 30 for 30, then we could go to the baseball draft.
All right. Let's go for it.
Okay. You know how it was marketed the long gone summer? Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire?
Yes.
You know what we got? 90% Mark McGwire.
We did get a lot of Mark McGwire.
I mean, I know that it should probably be a bit more about Mark McGwire because he was the guy to beat and he was the guy that broke the record first and he won the home run race. So yeah, of course there's going to be a bit more Mark McGwire, but it felt like it was just about Mark McGwire with a few sprinkles of Sammy Sosa.
It was a lot of Mark McGwire. It was like 75-25. And it's weird. Like it was more of a feel good than it was an indictment about steroid use or
it wasn't very educational. It was just kind of a recap. It seemed like it was just trying to rake in nostalgia more than anything.
And you know what's funny? It did. Like, I mean, you lived through that era, but you were what, 5?
Yeah, I was 4.
Yeah,
I really don't remember it.
So I mean, I remember that very clearly. And I remember, we had the internet, but like it was different than it was now. Yeah, you didn't sign on to go check baseball stats, as you checked in the newspaper. So like every night I would flip on Sports Center to see, everyone on the streets like, did anybody hit a home run today? Was there a home run? Sosa hit a home run? Oh, McGwire hit 2? Oh. And you'd be checking ESPN, anything that was on ESPN when Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa would come to the plate, they would interrupt whatever program it was, whatever game it was, and go to the at-bat. And, towards the end, I mean, obviously not in June, but towards the end, they were cutting away at every at-bat. And it was craziness. It went from baseball being, dying, a flopping fish, to just, it's just larger than life, and everybody's talking about it. And it really did capture that feeling that was going on at the time, where it was just palpable. You just felt the excitement in the air, especially here in Chicago. And, everybody's talking, Sammy going to do it? And he was such the underdog. And I wish they would have played that up a little more, as what an underdog Sammy was.
Exactly.
And it was kind of the underdog story. And, he didn't win, but man, he smashed the previous record, Roger Maris's record. And it was like, everybody's like, can Sammy do it? Can Sammy do it? Oh my goodness, Sammy caught up to him. They're tied at 58. Oh my goodness, Sammy could do it. And it was so cool. It was so much like amazing drama. And, at the end you felt that, Sammy wasn't going to do it, but man, it made it exciting. But, they didn't deal with any of the aftermath. They just sort of glossed over it. I felt they missed the mark on a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that they liked talking about the Cardinals team that year. Oh, but hey, you barely talked about the Cub team that actually made the postseason. You showed the clip of Rod Beck getting the save for like 15 seconds, and that was it.
If
you didn't go into any detail about that.
Yeah, if you didn't know any better, you were like, well, why? Like, honestly, like you're sitting there watching going, why are they showing Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa not batting? It's the Cubs with Rod Beck pitching. Like, what's going on? But if you didn't know, you're like, oh, the Cubs made the playoffs, and the Cardinals, what, a little over 500?
Yeah, they were a pretty mediocre team that season.
So it was all over the place, I think, and it focused too much on Mark McGwire, not enough on the steroids. I think it was trying to sell it as this was okay. It was good for baseball, which it was in many ways, but I just felt it was trying to turn into a Disney movie rather than a true documentary about what happened.
You want to know what my favorite part of the documentary was?
When they went to Steve Traxel.
Well, that was one. That was one. That was great. But what I was also going to say was how they show Sammy Sosa coming to the plate, and then he hits a home run, and then they show the shots of the crowd, and the shots of the crowd from like 2018. So you see a bunch of people in Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo and Kyle Schwarber and Javi Baez jerseys standing and cheering as Sammy Sosa hits a home run. And then you see the shot of Wrigley Field, and you realize, holy crap, in 1998, they had video boards back then. Wait a minute.
Oh, man.
Wait a minute. Is this the Mandela effect or something?
People really liked Chris Bryant back then.
They liked him when he was like 4 years old, 5 or like 6 years old. I think he would have been 6 that year.
We knew. We knew.
We knew Chris Bryant was going to be a superstar. Same with all the other guys. We knew that Anthony Rizzo was going to be a star. We knew Kyle Schwarber was going to be a star. It's like you hear the voiceover of Chip Carey And here comes Sammy, swung on, belted, deep toward left. And there's the shot of the Kyle Schwarber dude going crazy in the bleachers. That suddenly got a lot bigger than they were in 1998.
I know I've said this story on the air, but I remember once I went to a Mets game in New York. It was Mets-Cubs. And Cubs lost. Sammy Sosa was 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts.
Ooh.
And we're walking out of the game, and some New Yorker just driving by just slows down his car and just yells at me, "Hey, Sammy Sosa, you effing suck." Welcome to New York.
Yep. I picture you driving out of New York like Homer Simpson in the one episode, Homer Simpson versus New York. You're driving and a big slimy like piece of trash goes on your face.
Every place is bad if you only focus on the pimps and the chuds. So yeah, I mean, there was some nostalgia in it, but I don't know. I felt like it missed the mark.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree.
And you know, I probably flip-flopped on this, but I wish they would bring Sammy Sosa back. You know, he was kind of a turd at the end. He definitely was a turd at the end. He wasn't a good teammate. He totally was a turd when speaking to Congress, where he suddenly forgot how to speak English. Mm-hmm. And he's become a weirdo with his country and western garb and his dyed skin. But you know what he was awfully important to the Cubs for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see him back sooner rather than later.
Most of me at this point just wants to see him back so we can stop talking about it. Just end the narrative, end the constant talks about him being back or not. Just bring him back and end it all. Sick of hearing about it.
Wouldn't that just be cool? Is fine, like, you know, after a lost season, home opener next year, complete radio silence. Everyone shows up to the game, super excited, probably an opener against the Cardinals on a Sunday night or something weird. And out walks Sammy Sosa to throw the first pitch, and people just lose their minds. And they forget about, you know, the whole previous season and all the other nonsense, and Sammy's back. And I think that would be a big deal. I think that would go a long way.
I think so too. I think it would, because if you look at the majority opinion of the fan base, just based on voting and polls and all that good stuff, I think it's fair to say the majority of the fan base wants to see him back at this point. I think if it was 10 years ago, you would have had a little bit of a different ratio, but I think as more time goes on, more people want to see him back.
And I guarantee as well, if you had a more in-depth poll and not just, do you want him back, yes or no, but it was like, what degree do you want him back?
Yeah.
And what degree do you not want him back? You would see that number, a big shift. I think a lot of the people that are still saying no would still actually kind of be excited if he showed up.
I think so. If they're in the moment and they see it happen, I think some of their nostalgic hearts would kind of soften a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. The nostalgia will take over. It's not like the Pete Rose thing where the lines are drawn in sand and you are just never going to cross it. You either are pro Pete in the Hall of Fame or you never want to see him near baseball ever again. I think you're right. Time has really healed the Sammy Sosa wounds, and a lot of these younger fans that have, you know, jumped on the bandwagon since the Cubs have been good. A lot of them don't even know why they were mad at people were mad at Sammy Sosa. They don't know that history.
Yeah, I mean, they just know the basic things about the steroids and whatnot, but there was a lot to it involving the Cubs. There was a lot more to it.
Yeah, I don't think the steroids are even the tip. They're just the tip of the iceberg. I think it's all the other stuff. The bad teammate, the walking out in the last game, you know, feeling like he abandoned the team.
Right.
And there's one more thing that I have to have to just say about it is they didn't mention the White Sox at all.
No, and that was brought up too. And I mean, I know that he didn't do much with the White Sox, but I thought they'd at least mention saying, hey, he first came to Chicago as a member of the White Sox, because that was a pretty significant trade between the two teams. And I thought they would mention that.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, he was drafted by the Rangers. Now he's a Cub. Like, bruh. Like, I know I'm a Cubs fan, but I felt that slap across the face to White Sox fans. I felt it up in the North Side.
Yeah, they should have at least mentioned it. It's yeah.
I mean that would have been a I think a something to mention, you know. Because they basically implied that that the Rangers traded him right to the Cubs.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, didn't he play there for like what, 2 years? Was it like 2.5 years?
I think it was almost 3 years.
Let me look it up, because I know it was at least more than one season.
Maybe it was 2. It was, yeah.
Well, it was like 2.
Oh, 2.5. Here we go. So it was traded. He was traded in the trading deadline in '89, and then he was traded during the offseason of the Cubs before the '92 season.
Yeah.
So, and then he was traded by the Cubs to the Orioles in 2005, and signed by the Rangers in 2007.
And then Sosa hit his 600th home run against the Cubs, ironically.
But yeah, I had to give the White Sox fans their prop on that one, because they were rightfully. ESPN loves to forget about the White Sox like they don't exist.
Yeah, that was that was kind of cringy. I'll say that.
All right. So we had over the weekend the Major League Baseball the draft, and it was much different than it is in previous years. They scaled it back from 600,000 rounds to 5.
Much easier to keep track of, I'll say that.
Much easier to keep track of, but it also the White Sox had people scratching their heads. I mean, it makes sense now, but man, on the live streams and the broadcasts and things, people, you know, they really shook their heads with the White Sox. So their first pick, the White Sox took Garrett Crochet, left-handed pitcher from Tennessee, 6'6" fireballer, throws 100 miles an hour. He's got a Chris Sale-like wipeout slider. He's a 3-pitch guy. They're saying he might be like a long bullpen guy, like a guy like Andrew Miller that can come in for 3 innings and close it, or possibly a starter. But he looks good. The next guy is man, I can't read my handwriting. Jared somebody or other. He's a high school pitcher. I can't read my own handwriting. He was actually ranked 12th in the draft, or in the prospects. They got him at 47. High school pitcher. His record was 32-3 with a 0.32 ERA.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, so they actually like him a lot, and he was ranked very high. They got him in the second round. They slotted him money-wise like much higher, so he's getting first-round money. So the teams are allowed a certain amount of money to spend on their draft picks. So if you and they're slotted. So this, if spot 47 is supposed to get X amount of money, and if you pay over that, you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. So they probably gave him upwards of $1 million, $1.5 million as a signing bonus. So that meant the rest of their guys, they didn't have a lot of money to spend. So that explained with their third pick, number 83, they picked Addison Coffey. 83. So the 83rd pick, they picked Addison Coffey from Wabash Valley College. He wasn't ranked in the top 500 players. Why did they pick him there? Because he accepted a $10,000 signing bonus. And
watch him come up through the system and be a star.
And that kind of sums up their 4th and 5th round picks too, is they picked a pitcher from Grand Canyon State and another one from Auburn, who are both 22 years old with Tommy John surgeries already. So the White Sox had gone in saying that they needed a hit on 5 picks because how truncated the draft is, and they went into it going, you know what if we can really slam dunk it on 2 and call it a day? And that's sort of what they did. Mm-hmm. They put all their eggs in the top 2 picks, and it's a high school pitcher and a college pitcher, so it's I think it's a smart plan. Get 2 guys that you're really excited about rather than rather than 5 guys that maybe you're lukewarm about.
Yeah, no, that first round pick compared to Chris Sale, I think there's a lot of potential there. I think the White Sox are trying to stockpile as much pitching as they can because, pitching is, it's hard to evaluate. And I mean, not from the point of view of like stuff. It's easy to evaluate stuff and what they can do, but it's hard when you have a lot of young guys, especially ones that have had some injury issues. I mean, look, Michael Kopech has had injury issues. Dylan Cease has had injury issues. Carlos Rodon has had a million of them. And all those guys have a lot of potential, have a lot of talent, but I think it's smart to stock up on a lot of pitching talent because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the White Sox have been very good with developing young pitchers. But they've got a couple guys that just didn't pan out that they were expecting to.
Carson Fulmer
is one of them.
But he was poorly developed. Do you remember that whole story?
Yes, I mean, true. But they when he was drafted, they thought he could come up the next season. It's just he did not develop like they thought, and he's looking more and more like he's going to be a bust.
Yeah, I remember he was really struggling in Double-A, so they said, hey, let's call him up to the majors while he's struggling. And I think that did more harm than good.
And then you've got Carlos Rodon, who sometimes looks great and sometimes just flounders, and I don't think you really know what you have with him, and he's coming time to pay him. So it's a tough situation. You don't know what you have with Michael Kopech. You're very high on him, but he hasn't done anything yet either.
I think, in my personal opinion, I think Kopech is long-term going to be a reliever. That's my opinion.
It's possible. We don't know.
I just think with the young surgery and the way he throws, he throws a lot of heat. I just think if he wants to prolong his career, I think it would be best suited as a reliever, and I think he could be a darn good reliever too. I mean, he's got the stuff to be great. With already one injury in the bank at such a young age, and just the way he throws, I just don't see him having nearly as long of a career as a starter than as a reliever long term.
Yeah, so they're stockpiling pitching because you need pitching to win. And I don't think they have the arms right now to go along with the bats that they have.
Yeah, I mean, you see the potential, but again, there's a lot of worries. I was bummed from the beginning. I mean, I'll defend the trade to the day, but when the Cubs traded for Jose Quintana and they gave the White Sox Dylan Cease, I really like him because I like the potential he has, and I think he's got great potential. But there is the injury concern there. Now, it might not be a problem in the long run. He might be great for the White Sox, but it's good that you try to give yourself as much cushion with pitchers as you can, because pitchers can be very fickle, and it's hard to stay consistently good for a long time. It's a very small percentage of pitchers who do, and the more you have stockpiled in the farm, the better off you are.
Yep, can never have too much pitching.
No.
And then the Cubs, with their first overall pick, they picked a local kid.
The local boy.
Ed Howard from Mount Carmel High School, who played on Jackie Robinson West, the feel-good story from the Little League World Series. And that is looking like possibly a very good pick. That people
He's
are
part of the White Sox program, the ACE program.
Yeah, so people are very high on him. I'm reading that he might be people are projecting him to be an absolute star. My buddy Gary said he expects him to be the replacement for Javi Baez in a couple of years. I've heard comparisons to Tim Anderson, better fielding Tim Anderson, which I would be okay with that. We're seeing that Tim Anderson is looking legit. So
yeah, absolutely.
I would be happy with that. A lot of people I have not heard a negative about the Cubs picking Ed Howard. So excited about that pick. It's not often you get to be excited about your first round MLB pick. So I'll take it.
Yeah, me too. I love the story. I like the kid's attitude. I love how they were able to see him and his family and friends all go crazy and celebrate when he was drafted. That was so cool to see. He's gotten a lot of just praise from different people. There were some scouts saying that was the best pick in the draft so far at that point. So no complaints from me.
Yeah, none whatsoever. The Cubs' second pick, the number 51 overall, was left-handed pitcher Burl Caraway from Dallas Baptist. He was listed as the top reliever in the draft. He's a 2+ pitcher with a fastball and a curveball. They think he's actually going to be very quick to the majors, possibly next season. In college, in 51 innings, he had 89 strikeouts. But he's a little erratic because he had 31 walks too to go along with that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things they're going to try to work with him is command. But if the Cubs have a nice quality, hard-throwing lefty reliever, that is going to be much welcomed.
Yeah, so that would be huge. Left-handed relief pitcher. So we'll see how that goes. The third round pick, number 88 overall, was Jordan Nwogu, outfielder from Michigan. He's a big guy, 6'3", 235. He was the leadoff hitter for a really good Michigan Wolverine team. And he was a leadoff hitter, a really good average and on-base percentage. But what they said about him was they think he could be a power hitter with a good eye. So I think they're looking very Kyle Schwarber-ish at him, I'm guessing. So that's... that seems like a nice pickup. It's funny, he was a walk-on.
Yeah,
that's a good story.
I've seen some of his home runs. The dude can really launch them. When you see his batted balls, you say, "Holy launch angle, Batman."
Yeah. Fourth round, number 17 overall, Luke Little, left-handed pitcher out of San Jacinto North Junior College. 6'8", 225 pounds, 105 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah, you know what? I love the fact that the Cubs are stockpiling more and more hard flamethrowers because honestly, in this day and age of baseball, you need more velocity. I feel like the way that it's changed is such a slugging, launch angle, exit velocity type game. You need to miss more bats because the more balls that get put in play, and if they're getting hit harder, you're probably going to see more hits happen. So that's why, the Cubs the past few years have had a lot of pitchers not really relying on blowing guys away. You know what? It's kind of cost them. lengthy at bats, a lot of contacts made against. You need some more guys that could just flat miss bats. So I love the fact that they're stockpiling more hard throwers.
Yeah, he averaged 2 strikeouts an inning in college.
Not bad.
Yeah, they said he's a little bit wild, and at 6'8", not surprising. He's got some back issues, but seems like he is a high ceiling guy.
Yeah, you know, that could pretty much sum up the Cubs draft, and I like the approach. High ceiling, high reward, a little bit of risk. You know what? I don't want to really play it safe. The development in the farm system the last few years has not been very good. We haven't gotten a lot of results, and I think it was time for the Cubs to take more high risk, high reward type guys.
Yeah, especially when they're not drafting that high.
Right, exactly.
You need to go high ceiling, because going safe, drafting later in the draft is just not working out.
No.
So I'm liking what they did so far. And you know what? I like the last time the Cubs had a bullpen guy that threw 105 miles an hour. I liked the results.
Yeah, they won a World Series.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And then the last pick, the 5th rounder, number 147, Cohen Marino, right-handed pitcher from Panther Creek High School. I'm reading that he's probably not going to sign. He's probably going to go to college. But it seems like he's a guy that only dropped that far because they were suspecting that he was going to go to college and not go to.
Yeah.
So, but if they're able to sign him, he's got some nasty stuff too. So that would be a big win for the Cubs if they were able to sign him.
So you at least know you got 2 hard-throwing pitchers. You got a guy that could slug the ball, and you got a guy that can make contact and is a smooth fielder.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think for a 5-round draft, I think you did good.
It's probably as excited as I've been about a Cubs draft in several years.
Absolutely. So it was a nice draft. I was very happy with it. You know, I can't knock what the Cubs did at all. And the White Sox, you know, sure, they sort of threw. I mean, their 4th and 5th rounders are shot in the dark. Who knows what you're going to get with 22-year-olds that are coming off Tommy John? But those first 2 picks look like they're the real deal.
Yeah, you got a lot of potential there. And if you can score on at least 1 pick from each draft, then you're doing something right.
Right. And then the last thing I had to talk about, I don't know if you had anything else, is Kyle Long has been taking to Twitter recently, taking some shots at the Bears and the coaching staff, and saying that they fired him, he didn't retire, and I'm just going to say I can't speak for another person about what they should or shouldn't do, but as a fan, these last couple of years of watching him were pretty painful.
Yeah, they were.
He just didn't look like himself. And I think even his brothers cringed and said he had to turn the game off when the Raiders game. So I don't know if he's just suddenly feeling healthier now. And now he feels like he's wronged, and when the Bears let him go, he just wasn't feeling healthy. I don't know what's changed, but he doesn't seem very happy. And honestly, can you blame the Bears for moving on from him with that injury history?
Well, it was hard. You know, he was making a decent amount of money, and things were just getting worse and worse. And you know, I think we all knew that his best days were behind him. So, you know, with the budget's tight and you got to make some changes, it's unfortunate circumstances, but I'm not surprised it happened.
Yeah, he was making like $8.5 million offhand. I think that's what it was. So he's making a solid chunk of money, and when was the last time he played 16 games? So, you had no idea what you were going to get from him, but based on track record, it wasn't going to be a full season. So you needed to plan for moving on. And it's a necessary part. It's a business. You're trying to win football games. There's a lot of guys that are feel-good guys that you would love to have on your team that just time passed you by. We had to, and there's some players that will go gracefully. Kyle Long's not one of them. Unfortunately, Brian Urlacher wasn't one of them.
No.
So it's a tough situation when you see great players leave your team and kicking and screaming and having tantrums, but it was time to go, and I don't, as a fan, I don't think they did him dirty. I think he just didn't recognize when it was his time, and sometimes, and I think that's a lot of times, is players don't know when to say they're done. Sometimes the league reminds them, and it's not a gentle reminder.
Not at all.
So I just, I feel bad that he's suddenly upset, I'm glad he has that fire where he really still wants to play, but the Bears told him they don't think he can anymore. And I don't know what the rest of the league is saying, but he clearly still is jobless. So if he still wants to play, I don't know who's signing him and for what kind of money. And if I was the Bears and he was desperate to come back, I sign him to a 1 year low money contract, veteran minimum.
Yeah, you wouldn't sign him to anything big.
Yeah, prove it. Prove you're healthy. Prove you come back. Make it incentive laden. You got a little bit of cap room. Make it incentive. If you play well and you stay healthy. Because what would suck is, who was the offense? Mark Colombo. When the Bears drafted Mark Colombo and just always injured, they finally cut ties with him, and then he goes to the Cowboys and plays a bunch of years, plays at a high level, and you're like, what the hell? He was finally healthy, and you don't blame the Bears for getting rid of him, and just finally the guy got healthy and played like the guy you thought you drafted. I don't think Kyle Long's in that same category because he's got some major injuries. It's just, I don't know. And my 1 year veteran minimum contract that I throw at him, honestly, that is more a kind of shut him up and then he just sort of, he realizes that, man, he's not healthy and he should walk away on his own. But I don't know. It's a tough situation when you still got a guy that's kicking and screaming and doesn't realize that his body might be not able to play at the high level anymore.
I mean, he really took a beating out there. He was such a talented player, but you saw the injuries and you saw how ugly some of them were. It's just hard to imagine him being able to come back and play at the level he once was early in his career. I mean, maybe he were to come back and play decently, but it's going to take a while to get in shape. It's, to get back into the game. And, I think if he does come back, I'm not sure it would be with the Bears. In my opinion, it'd probably be somewhere else. And I think the Bears are ready to move on, and he might be ready to move on from the Bears if he does play again. But yeah, it's another chapter in weird endings for Bears players.
It's frustrating. You just like to see harmony with your team.
What's been the bet? You got Charles Tillman signing the 1 day contract, Devin Hester, but like you said, Brian Urlacher, Jay Cutler, a lot of ugly endings.
I don't even remember the ending of Lance Briggs.
I don't either. He just kind of vanished. Well, I think his last year was that ugly 2014 season, so it was so bad we kind of forgot that one of the best linebackers we've had in the past several decades has gone. I mean, Lance Briggs played a long time, and it's too bad that his last season was that.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, 2014. I couldn't remember because it was talks of like trading him to the Redskins, and Oof. Yeah, he played 8 games, 2014. And he was so good. He was so good for a bunch of years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, man. What are you going to do? But it's funny because you have a team like the Patriots, and they will just move on from a guy like, nothing, and just not miss a beat, and nobody cares. And I think winning does that for you. You don't care that players complain. Yeah, screw it. We're going to win another title without you.
Yeah, you'll just plug in Larry McPukenmeyer, and he'll end up being part of a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, watch. They're going to replace the best quarterback in the history of football with, I don't even know the guy's name. It's some Scrubbenstein, and he's gonna throw for 3,800 yards, and they're gonna win 10 games. And you're gonna be like, what the hell? How do they do this? And
then they just cut to a picture of Belichick sitting there with his angry face,
drinking his orange juice.
Yep.
Drives me crazy. But winning does that.
Yes, it does.
You get attached to winning rather than the players. And honestly, I like being attached to players, but I'd much rather be attached to winning.
I agree.
If you were like, you know what? Like, take your favorite Bears player right now, Khalil Mack. If you told me cut Khalil Mack, don't get anything for him, just cut him, and it'd be like, adios, get the F out, and you would win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Guess what? So long, Khalil Mack. I ain't loyal to you. I'm loyal to this team. I want to see championships. So that's the way I got to do things.
I hear you.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
It's been sort of a slow week.
Yeah.
Trying to think, is there anything else that we're missing?
No Bulls news.
No Bulls. No
Blackhawks. We had the draft. We have Manfred and all the baseball crap.
I'm reading a new thing on Bleach Report. Jim Boylan's status as the Bulls coach remains up in the air, even though front office changes have been made, and Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times believes the franchise's reputation has something to do with it. He said on 670 The Score, Rick Carlisle, the Dallas coach, has made it very clear the disdain the Coaches Association and a lot of coaches have for the Bulls and the practices they have toward coaches. They're buying time because they have to buy. But also, I think it's also a perception thing that they're looking to change. We can't get a coach because John Paxson and Gar Forman.
We just need. You know what I just want to see? I just want to see this. I want, all the people who have rightfully so think the Bulls in a negative light, and honestly, of all those years, they should. I just want Arturas Karnisovas to get up on a stage, look at them all, and say, "Look at me, I'm in charge now. Go all Captain Phillips on them," and just establish the fact that team is no more, and that he's going to change everything.
I get the reputation they probably have with coaches, but how can it be any worse than the Knicks? And they still seem to find coaches.
That's true. I mean, this is and like the Knicks, this is, I don't know how much this affects a coaching decision, but this is Chicago. This isn't Utah. This isn't, Sacramento.
And you know what?
This isn't Miami. This is Chicago.
There is a big, big jump between assistant coach salary and head coach salary. There's very, very few head coach jobs in the NBA. So there's going to be somebody that wants it.
Yep. And you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen.
Is Jim Boylan's going to put on a fake mustache and
Yes.
and a fez and be like, hello.
My name is Tom Boyston. And then
Tom Boyston, I have resume.
I have resume right here.
He's going to talk like Balky from Perfect Strangers. He's like, Cousin Larry.
And then when they see through his disguise, he's gonna leave. Then he's gonna come back and pull a Dwight Schrute, where he's gonna wrap himself up like in toilet paper and pretend like he was like an acid burn victim or something, so they can't see him.
When they catch him, when they figured out it's him, and they clearly know it's him, and he's trying to play it off, and then they pull the disguise off, and he just goes, yoinks! And you just see Arturas Karnisovas just shake his head slowly and then put his fingers in his mouth and go and whistle. And you see John Lackey on Buttercup come riding out and lasso him. They drag him back and be like, no more of this.
He lassos him. He pulls him in. I got you, you're boiling.
And Boylan just pulls out a pile of paper. He's like, this is my coaching resume. And you just hear, ba-doom. That's what I think of your resume.
And Arturas pays him in chaw.
He just pulls out this giant, like 16-inch canister of Skol. And he's like, there you go. You did a good job. This should last me a week.
And then he just out of the room.
You just see him open up the can and just grab like an oversized handful and just push it into his mouth. And just, like you watch his jaw stretch out like a cobra.
And Arturas just has like this half disgusted, half like whatever look on his face at him.
He lifts up Buttercup's lip and puts some chaw in there too. Oh, man. Oh, Buttercup. But I don't have anything else. I don't know if you do.
No.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Spotify, Google Play. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.